let me give you this scenario. First overall, Cam Ward goes to Tennessee. Second overall, Travis Hunter goes to the Cleveland Browns. And then the Giants, they're looking into Shedeur Sanders. They've really poked and prodded, and they're considering it, but they opt for the best player available and take Abdul Carter at third overall with the plethora of pass rushers that they have on that roster. And that leaves the Patriots sitting there at number 4 with the 2 blue chip prospects off the board. And it's a big drop-off after that. And assessing the players between 4 and 15 on these draft boards, it's a crapshoot on who the best player available there is. But one thing that many are ruling out when we're talking about the blue chip player conversation, Travis Hunter 1A, Abdul Carter 1B, there is a third player who is definitely the best at their position and can definitely be considered a blue chip player. The only reason he's not considered a blue chip player is because he's a running back. And that, of course, is Ashton Jeanty from Boise State University. Now, let me just state, it's not smart to draft a running back at 4th overall. It is not a good idea, and if the Patriots enter draft day on Thursday with the current roster they have right now, they should not draft Ashton Jeanty. It is a terrible idea. Running back is the most dependent position on the field. Address the other needs first, and then worry about running back later, because this is a very deep running back draft. That being said, I can be talked into the Patriots drafting Ashton Jeanty at 4th overall. We know a few things, right? Mike Vrabel had a very run-dependent offense when he was with the Tennessee Titans. Now, that had entirely everything to do with the fact Derrick Henry was there and Ryan Tannehill was their quarterback. But it's safe to say that Mike Vrabel probably is more of an old-school mindset when it comes to running the football, and that's essentially what he did in Tennessee. Josh McDaniels, the last Super Bowl that he won as offensive coordinator with the Patriots, they shifted late in the year to a run-heavy offense, and that was the reason they were ultimately able to make that run and win that 6th Super Bowl with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Not to mention Josh McDaniels with Las Vegas relied very heavily on Josh Jacobs at the running back position. Right now, Ramondre Stevenson is on the back 9 of his career. We know he struggled with fumbles last year and was arguably outplayed by Antonio Gibson and Ezekiel Elliott each of the last 2 years. We know the Patriots will likely draft a running back at some point this draft. Again, it's a very deep draft, and Robert Kraft has even said, I would love to see them add a speedy running back, and we know he's an old school guy. But we know, look, the Patriots, their greatest need is the left tackle position. They have needs at receiver, but there is a glaring hole at left tackle, which is why I think a lot of Patriot fans, myself included, have kind of accepted the idea and are comfortable with the Patriots taking Will Campbell at 4th overall, understanding the arm length concerns, but he can be a serviceable left tackle in the league, and if it doesn't work out, you kick him over to left guard in year 2. But we found out a couple of days ago that Colton Miller, the starting left tackle for the Las Vegas Raiders, might be on the trade block. Now, Colton Miller, he's underpaid. He's in the final year of his contract. I think he's 29 years old at the moment. Yep, 29 years old. And he is not negotiating with the Raiders at this moment in time on a contract extension. Now, that could change, right? But there's a reason this story broke about a week out from the NFL draft. It's to put on the radar, whether it's coming from Colton Miller's agent or whether it's coming from the Las Vegas Raiders themselves, that, hey, we might trade this guy and get some draft compensation back. That is the way the Patriots could draft Ashton Jeanty. You trade for Colton Miller, I'm not sure I'd call him a star, but a very good NFL starting left tackle, and now you've filled all your needs. Doesn't mean you don't have minor needs, adding another receiver, bolstering that offensive line, adding a center, maybe some depth at tight end, some depth around the edge. I think they need a free safety. We haven't seen one of those since Devin McCourty was here. They have some minor needs, but if you are able to take care of the left tackle position before the NFL draft, then you can take the best player available, which is Ashton Jeanty at 4th overall, if Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are indeed both off the board. And Colton Miller, like I said, he's a good player. All right, according to Pro Football Focus, out of 141 tackles in the NFL, his pass blocking grade ranked 11th overall. Out of 141 tackles, his run blocking grade ranked 30th overall. So his overall grade out of the 141 tackles in the league is 14th overall. Now that includes both left tackles and right tackles, and tackles that had enough playing time that they're able to make these rankings, but they're not necessarily starting players. So there may be some players in there that are in front of him that may not be better than Colton Miller. Long story short, he is a top third, maybe even top 25% NFL starting left tackle. Compare that to having the worst starting left tackle each of the last, 2 to 3 seasons in New England. That is an enormous upgrade. And that gives the Patriots all the flexibility they need to just take the best player available at every pick during the NFL draft. And that warms up the idea of selecting Ashton Jeanty. With Mike Vrabel, his emphasis on the run with Ramondre Stevenson kind of taking a step or two back these last couple of years. Antonio Gibson is a good player, but you don't necessarily want to rely on him as a number one. Ashton Jeanty is a workhorse back, and he is one of the more talented running backs to enter the NFL, maybe the most talented back to enter since Saquon Barkley, and that's why he is in the conversation of going somewhere in the top 10, top 5 of this draft. And if you look at Draft Buzz, like I said, this is a very deep draft at running backs. If the Patriots don't take Ashton Jeanty, and they add Colton Miller, I won't be heartbroken because there's a lot of great players to choose from. But Draft Buzz, just to give you an example, ranks the number 2 through number 10 prospects at running back somewhere between an 87 and an 83 overall grade. So all of those players, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, are all around the mid-80s in their overall ranking. Ashton Jeanty, his overall ranking, 92.5. Huge leap from the number 2 running back, which is Omario Hampton, very good player from the University of North Carolina. But Ashton Jeanty is the Saquon Barkley type difference maker that could really change the way the Patriots approach their offense and allow Josh McDaniels to get really creative. He's small, right? That's one of the issues. Now, being small at running back is not the end of the world. He has some weight to him. He's still 211 pounds, but he is 5'8". Ran a 4.42 40, which puts him at about the 90th percentile. Overall, his strengths, elite contact balance, sheds tackles with ease. He didn't necessarily have a great offensive line in front of him at Boise State. That's one of the interesting things. He ran for, how many yards did he have last year? It's a ridiculous number. It's 2,600 yards rushing. Ashton Jeanty, his last year at Boise State. I mean, if you have a 1,500 yard rusher, that's often a first-round draft pick in the NFL, right? Especially if the traits carry over. 2,600 yards. He was their entire offense. So as I said, sheds tackles with ease, elite vision and anticipation, consistently finds and exploits gaps. He does have that Le'Veon Bell patience to him where he's willing to let the blockers play out in front of him before he bursts. Has a rare combination of burst and long speed, can take any touch to the house from anywhere on the field. Soft, natural hands with a wide catch radius. Workhorse capability, proven durability. So he's a third down back. I think one of the red flags is he's played so much. Running backs have a short shelf life. How great is he going to be, 4 or 5 years down the road? That is a big question. Advanced pass protection skills, diagnoses blitzes quickly and anchors against larger defenders. That's important for a 5'8" running back. Runs with exceptional pad level and leg drive. Game breaker who elevates his play in crucial moments. So those are the strengths, according to Draft Buzz. And there aren't a lot of weaknesses here. Slightly undersized, I just mentioned that. Could use further refinement in his route tree. I mean, he's a running back, so he'll get it down with Josh McDaniels. His usage, which I just mentioned, has had a lot of playing time, which means he might have a short shelf life in the NFL. And occasional lapses in ball security when fighting for extra yards in traffic. That's something we've certainly seen with Ramondre Stevenson. But again, this is the best running back in all likelihood to enter the NFL since Saquon Barkley, and we saw how much of an impact he had in Philadelphia last year. Again, I do not want the Patriots doing this if they haven't addressed left tackle. And because then you're looking at hoping you can trade back into the late first round and take Kelvin Banks or Josh Carnley Jr., but that's something the Patriots tried to do last year and they couldn't find any trade partners. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast with the potential A.J. Brown rumor, Patriots have the 32nd overall pick, that allows them to move back into the first round. But currently, you take a running back and you don't have left tackle taken, you're looking at another year in all likelihood where you're trying to develop someone to play the position. You might have Adarian Lowe out there. You might have to shift Morgan Moses over and start Caden Wallace on the right side, or add Ozzie Trapilo in the mid-rounds and see if it works out with him. So the only way the Patriots should do this, in my opinion, is if they make this trade with Colton Miller. And you would think they're interested, right? Colton Miller, 29 years old, 6'8", 325 pounds, one of the better left tackles in the NFL, on the trade block. Doesn't sound like the Raiders want to pay him long term. Vrabel has a good relationship, obviously, with Tom Brady. He can help make that call. I'm sure the Patriots have already inquired about this, but that would make life a lot easier. The other idea, of course, instead of taking Ashton Jeanty, and this is something I tweeted the other day, you trade for Colton Miller and you still draft Will Campbell at 4th overall, and then you have a foundational offensive line for years to come for Drake May. Colton Miller at left tackle, Will Campbell at left guard, be the best left side in the NFL potentially, figure out center, Owenu at right guard, and then Morgan Moses at right tackle. Drake May suddenly has a top 5, top 10 offensive line, and that's another idea, right? But I think if you address left tackle, you basically filled all your major needs, and then you can take a guy like Ashton Jeanty, who would be really exciting in New England, right? Like, we haven't seen a lot of speed. We haven't seen a lot of dynamic players. You know, we had many great years, of course, with Tom Brady, but he was still a boring pocket passer. Now you're adding Ashton Jeanty, the most dynamic running back to enter the league since Saquon Barkley. You added Stephon Diggs, who looks like he's going to be ready to go week 1. His rehab videos are incredible, considering he tore his ACL 5 months ago. And then you have Drake May, who, of course, is a dual-threat quarterback. We're going to see a very different offense in New England, and I'm comfortable with Josh McDaniels being able to be a lot more creative with that. We saw the way that offense evolved with Cam Newton, the way it evolved with Jacoby Brissett when he had to make a spot start. When Brady was out and Garoppolo went down, I think Josh McDaniels could do a lot with these dynamic players, and it'll be interesting. We'll see how it ultimately plays out. But let me know in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. Are you interested